The silence after my college acceptance letter arrived was the first sign. Not a shout of joy, not a congratulatory hug, just a heavy, suffocating silence that told me everything I needed to know about my place in this family. Years later, that silence would be deafened by the outrageous demand for $150,000. The irony? They wouldn't even spare a dime for the dream they now expected me to fund. My name is Stella, and the story of my family is a tangled mess of expectations, favoritism, and ultimately, the bitter taste of betrayal followed by the unexpected sweetness of self-made success. It began in the sleepy little town of Havenwood, nestled amidst rolling hills and predictable routines. Our two-story house, with its peeling paint and perpetually overgrown garden, was a monument to our modest existence. Dad ran Pop's Diner on Main Street, a greasy spoon that somehow managed to keep the bills paid and food on the table. Mom, a woman whose ambitions seemed to shrink with each passing year, mostly stayed home, occasionally lending a hand at the diner during the Friday night rush. My older sister Clara was the golden child. 2 years my senior, she seemed to effortlessly glide through life, collecting accolades like shiny pebbles. "Clara, darling, your artwork is simply breathtaking," Mom would exclaim, her eyes shining with pride as she pinned yet another of Clara's creations onto the already crowded refrigerator. I might have just aced my math test, the highest grade in the class, but the quiet satisfaction I felt always seemed to dissipate in the radiant glow of Clara's achievements. It was a constant refrain. Clara got the brand new laptop for her studies, while I inherited the ancient desktop in the dusty corner of the living room. Clara's wardrobe consisted of trendy outfits from the mall, while I wore her cast-offs, often several sizes too big. Family gatherings were less about connection and more about a carefully curated presentation of Clara's brilliance. "Did you hear Clara won the regional spelling bee?" Uncle George would boom, patting Dad on the back. "That girl's going places." My quiet participation in the school debate club and my volunteer work at the local animal shelter went unmentioned, deemed insignificant in the grand scheme of Clara's shining trajectory. It wasn't that I was failing. In fact, I was a diligent student, consistently earning good grades. But in our household, anything short of extraordinary was met with a kind of disappointed resignation. "Stella," Mom said once, her voice laced with a sigh as she watched me meticulously organize my school books, "you should really consider a practical field. Maybe cosmetology? You have such a knack for braiding hair." The suggestion, though perhaps well-meaning in her limited way, felt like another subtle nudge towards a predetermined path, a path decidedly less ambitious than the one paved for Clara. Looking back, I see how those early years sculpted the narrative of our family. Clara was the soaring eagle, destined for great heights, while I was the steady, grounded sparrow, meant for the ordinary. The subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways they reinforced this narrative chipped away at my confidence, leaving invisible scars. But beneath the surface of my quiet compliance, a stubborn ember of determination began to glow. Their low expectations would eventually fuel a fire they never anticipated. The day Clara received her acceptance letter to the prestigious Art Institute downtown was a monumental occasion. Balloons were bought, a fancy cake was ordered, and Dad even closed the diner, early to celebrate. "Our Clara an artist!" Mom declared, tears welling in her eyes as she clutched the letter. "We always knew you were special, sweetheart. We've been putting money aside for this since you were little." I offered a polite smile, the familiar pang of being overlooked a dull ache in my chest. I tried to imagine what my own college acceptance would be like, a distant hope flickering in the shadows of Clara's bright future. 2 years passed in a blur of homework, part-time jobs to save my own meager funds, and the constant awareness of the financial sacrifices being made for Clara's artistic pursuits. When my turn finally came to apply for college, I approached the subject with a mixture of hope and trepidation. I had researched diligently, focusing on business programs that seemed both challenging and offered the promise of financial independence. College? Mom's response was immediate and dismissive, a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Stella, dear, let's be practical. Clara's tuition is quite substantial, and frankly, we just don't have the resources for both of you. Perhaps a good secretarial program There's always a demand for skilled administrative assistants. But what about the college fund you've been building? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Dad shifted uncomfortably in his armchair, avoiding my gaze. That was specifically for Clara, her artistic talent. It's an investment in her future. And my future? The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken disappointment. I've worked hard. My grades are good. Of course, dear, Mom interjected, her tone placating, but not everyone is cut out for a 4-year university. There are many fulfilling and stable careers that don't require a bachelor's degree. Your father could really use some help at the diner, you know. You're good with people. The suggestion felt like a punch to the gut. Work at the diner? Was that the extent of their vision for me? I want more than that, I said, my voice trembling slightly. I want to learn, to grow, to build something for myself. Now, Stella, don't be dramatic, Mom chided. We're just being realistic. We love you, but we have to prioritize. That night, the familiar sting of being second best, of being deemed less worthy, settled deep within me. But this time, something shifted. The disappointment hardened into a quiet resolve. I would find my own way. My grandparents, Nana and Pop, were my anchors in the turbulent sea of my family dynamics. They lived a simple life in a small cottage, on the outskirts of town, their days filled with gardening, gentle bickering, and an unwavering love for their grandchildren. I confided in them, pouring out my frustration and dashed hopes over cups of lukewarm tea and Nana's comforting apple pie. They just don't see me, Nana, I said, tears welling in my eyes. They only see Clara. Nana patted my hand, her wrinkled fingers warm and reassuring. Sometimes, Stella Bean, people only see what they want to see. But that doesn't mean what you are isn't real and valuable. Pop, usually a man of few words, spoke with a rare intensity. Your mother and father, they have their ways, but your dreams are yours, and no one has the right to take them away from you. Over the next few weeks, Nana and Pop became my allies. They helped me research scholarships, navigate the confusing world of financial aid applications, and offered unwavering emotional support. It wasn't easy. The rejection stung, the paperwork was overwhelming, and the constant feeling of being unsupported by my own parents was a heavy burden. Then, Pop had an idea. He had a small inheritance from a distant relative, money they had always intended to use for home repairs. It's not a lot, Stella Bean, he said, handing me a check with trembling hands, but it's yours. Use it to start. Show them what you're capable of. The amount wasn't enough to cover a full 4-year tuition at a university, but it was a lifeline. It allowed me to enroll in the local community college to begin my studies in business administration. I worked part-time at a bookstore, juggling classes and late-night shifts, determined to make the most of this opportunity. The silence from my parents remained deafening. They never asked about my classes, never offered encouragement. Clara, busy with her art studies, barely acknowledged my existence. It was as if I had ceased to be a part of their carefully constructed world. 2 years later, armed with an associate's degree and a fierce determination, I set my sights higher. I applied to several state universities, highlighting my academic achievements at community college and my work experience. To my surprise and quiet satisfaction, I was accepted into the business program at a university in the state capital, a bustling city several hours away from Havenwood. The move was bittersweet. Leaving Nana and Pop felt like severing another, tied to the only real support system I had. But the excitement of a new beginning, the chance to finally pursue my ambitions without the weight of my family's low expectations, propelled me forward. University was a challenging but transformative experience. I thrived in the demanding business program, devouring knowledge about finance, marketing, and management. I joined clubs, made new friends, and for the first time, felt like I was truly in control of my own destiny. I continued to work part-time, saving every penny, determined to graduate without accumulating crippling debt. Throughout those 4 years, my contact with my parents and Clara remained minimal. Occasional stilted phone calls with Mom were filled with updates about Clara's artistic endeavors and veiled criticisms about my unrealistic career aspirations. Clara never called. Nana and Pop, however, were a constant source of love and encouragement. They called regularly, sent care packages filled with Nana's cookies and Pop's quirky handwritten notes, and celebrated every small victory with genuine enthusiasm. Their belief in me was a powerful antidote to the indifference of my parents. Graduation day was a triumph. Walking across that stage, receiving my bachelor's degree in business administration, I felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. I had done it. I had forged my own path, despite the obstacles and the lack of support from those who should have been my biggest cheerleaders. Nana and Pop were there, their faces beaming with pride, their presence a stark contrast to the empty seats where my parents should have been. The job market in the city was competitive, but my determination paid off. I landed an entry-level position at a small investment firm, working long hours and absorbing every bit of knowledge I could. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start, a foot in the door of the world I had worked so hard to enter. Years passed. I climbed the corporate ladder, my diligence and sharp financial acumen earning me promotions and increasing responsibility. I moved into a small but comfortable apartment, a space that was entirely my own, a sanctuary built on my own hard work. Nana and Pop visited often, their pride in my achievements a warm and constant presence in my life. Then, out of the blue, the call came. It was Mom. Her voice, usually laced with a subtle condescension, was surprisingly sweet. "Stella, dear, it's been so long. How are you? You should come visit sometime." A flicker of suspicion sparked within me. This sudden interest was unusual. "I'm fine, Mom. Busy with work." "Oh, of course, dear. You always were a hard worker. Listen, Clara got engaged to a lovely young man named Ethan. They're planning a big wedding, and we'd love for you to be there." The invitation felt perfunctory, an obligation rather than a genuine desire for my presence. "Congratulations to Clara," I said coolly. "I'll have to see if my schedule allows." A few weeks later, a formal invitation arrived, embossed with Clara and Ethan's names. It felt like a relic from a distant planet, bearing no connection to my life. I RSVP'd with a polite decline. Life continued. I changed jobs, moving to a larger, more prestigious investment firm, where my career truly began to flourish. I was good at what I did, my analytical skills and strategic thinking earning me the respect of my colleagues and the trust of my clients. Then came the second call, the one that truly revealed the depths of their audacity. It was Mom again, but this time, the sweetness was gone, replaced by an almost demanding tone. "Stella, we need to talk about Clara's wedding." "I assumed everything was going according to plan," I replied, my voice carefully neutral. "Well, yes, but there have been some unexpected expenses. Ethan's family has certain expectations, you see. It's going to be quite a lavish affair." My suspicion intensified. "And how does this concern me?" "Well, dear," Mom said, her voice taking on that familiar wheedling quality, "we were hoping you could contribute." I almost laughed. Contribute? To the wedding of the sister who barely acknowledged my existence for years? The sister whose college education was deemed a priority while mine was dismissed as an unaffordable luxury? "Now, Stella, don't be like that," Mom chided. "We're family. We help each other." "Family helps each other," I repeated, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. That's an interesting concept, considering the help I received when I wanted to go to college. There was a brief silence on the other end of the line. "Then," Mom continued, her tone shifting to one of injured martyrdom, "we did what we could, Stella. Clara had a real talent, a clear path." "And I didn't?" I retorted, the old wounds reopening, with a sharp pang. "My dreams weren't valid? My potential wasn't worth investing in?" "Look, Stella," Mom said, her voice losing its forced sweetness. "The point is, we need some financial assistance with the wedding. It's going to cost around $300,000, and we've already stretched ourselves thin." My blood ran cold. $300,000? For a wedding? "Well, yes. It's what's expected. And we were hoping, since you're doing so well now." The implication hung heavy in the air, They wanted me to foot half the bill for Clara's extravagant wedding, the same Clara whose educational dreams were prioritized while mine were deemed expendable. "How much were you thinking?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. $150,000, Mom said, the number hanging in the air like a lead weight. "It would be a loan, of course. We'd pay you back." "A loan," I repeated, the irony almost comical. "You, who refused to even consider a loan to help me pursue my education, now expect me to loan you an exorbitant sum for a lavish wedding." "It's different," Mom insisted. "This is for Clara's happiness." And my happiness wasn't worth a fraction of that, was it? The bitterness in my voice was palpable. When I pleaded for help, offered to sign legal documents promising repayment, you cited principles about not borrowing money. "Stella, please be reasonable," Mom pleaded. "This is important." "Reasonable?" I scoffed. "You want me to be reasonable after years of being made to feel like I was less than? After you dismissed my ambitions and refused to invest in my future? Now, when it suits your needs, you expect me to open my wallet?" The silence on the other end of the line was thick with unspoken resentment. Finally, Mom spoke, her voice tight with anger. "You've become so bitter, Stella. All that success has made you hard." "No," I corrected her, my voice firm. "What made me hard was the constant feeling of being undervalued by my own family. My success is a testament to my own hard work and determination, something I achieved in spite of your lack of support, not because of it." "So, you're saying no?" Mom's voice was laced with disbelief. "Yes, Mom, I'm saying no. I will not contribute a single penny to Clara's wedding." The line went dead. The audacity of their request left me reeling. The years of feeling like an afterthought, the sting of their dismissal of my dreams, all came flooding back. But this time, there was a new emotion mixed with the old hurt, a sense of empowerment. I had built my own life, achieved my own success, and I was no longer beholden to their skewed sense of family obligation. I shared the conversation with Nana and Pop. They were both furious on my behalf. "The nerve of them!" Pop exclaimed, his usually gentle eyes flashing with anger. "After all you've done, all you've accomplished on your own." Nana squeezed my hand. "You did the right thing, Stella Bean. You owe them nothing." The fallout from my refusal was swift and predictable. Mom called again, leaving a tearful voicemail accusing me of being selfish and ungrateful. Clara sent a barrage of angry texts, painting me as a heartless sister who was deliberately trying to sabotage her happiness. Even distant relatives, prompted by my parents' carefully curated narrative of my supposed cruelty, began to send disapproving messages. I ignored them all. I had learned long ago that engaging with their toxicity was a futile exercise. My peace of mind was worth more than their approval. The wedding day came and went. Nana and Pop and I spent a quiet afternoon together, a peaceful alternative to the drama unfolding across town. A few weeks later, the carefully curated wedding photos appeared on social media, a testament to the facade of familial harmony they so desperately tried to maintain. Clara looked radiant in her expensive gown, Ethan stiff and uncomfortable beside her. My parents beamed in the background, their smiles perhaps a little too wide, a little too forced. Life moved on. I continued to thrive in my career, my success a quiet but powerful validation of my worth. Nana and Pop remained my steadfast anchors, their love and support a constant source of strength. Occasionally, I would receive a strained message from Mom or a cold, accusatory email from Clara. But the emotional hold they once had on me had weakened, replaced by a quiet sense of self-assurance. I had built my own family, a family of choice that valued and supported me for who I was, not for who they wanted me to be. The silence after my college acceptance had been a sign. The silence that now existed between my parents, Clara, and me was a choice, my choice. And in that silence, I finally found my own voice, a voice that spoke of resilience, self-respect, and the quiet triumph of building a life on my own terms. The $150,000 they had so brazenly requested remained firmly in my account, a tangible symbol of my independence and the ultimate price of their years of neglect. And as the years stretched into decades, The memory of their demand served not as a source of bitterness, but as a potent reminder of how far I had come, a testament to the fact that sometimes the greatest successes bloom not in the warmth of familial approval, but in the fertile ground of self-belief and the unwavering love of those who truly see you. If any part of my story resonates with you, if you've ever felt unseen or undervalued, please know that you're not alone. There is strength in forging your own path. If you'd like to hear more stories of resilience and finding your voice, please like this and subscribe. Your support means the world.